So, how does anyone even keep their mind calm when life keeps throwing curveballs?
Honestly, just yesterday I caught myself overthinking again. Arjuna vibes right there.
Today's all about what Krishna actually says to do, real answers on steady minds and actual satisfaction.
Hang tight, Buller. We'll pull up the slokas and get ready to roll in just a minute. So, last time we left off with Krishna describing a mind that becomes steady and unshakable, what he called a Nishchala intellect, fixed in samadhi.
Right, moving beyond the forest of delusion. But that's a very internal state. It's hard to imagine what that actually looks like in a person.
Exactly, and that's precisely what Arjuna asks next. He basically says, okay, I hear you, but what does this person of steady wisdom actually do? This marks a huge turning point in the Gita.
He's asking for a role model, for a tangible example.
Precisely. By the end of our conversation today, we'll have explored Arjuna's profound question from verse 254 and unpacked the very first part of Krishna's answer in 255. You'll understand the two core conditions for achieving this state of steady wisdom. Let's start with the central term here. Arjuna asks about the stita prajna. Can we break that word down?
Okay, stita sounds like staying or stable. And prajna, we've talked about that meaning wisdom or consciousness, right?
That's it exactly. Stita means established, firm, steady. Prajna is wisdom. So a stita prajna is one whose wisdom is firmly established. Their understanding isn't theoretical, it's their lived reality.
So it's not just someone who is smart or has read a lot of books. It's someone whose wisdom is unshakable, no matter what happens.
Yes, the verse also uses another term, samadhi stha, which means one who is situated in samadhi, or a state of profound inner absorption. These two terms describe the same person, just from slightly different angles. One describes their inner quality of wisdom, the other, their state of being.
Okay, I get the concept. So now Arjuna wants to know how to spot one in the wild.
He does, and his questions are surprisingly practical. Verse 2.54 has Arjuna asking four things. First, broadly, what are the signs of this person? Then he gets specific. How do they speak? How do they sit? And how do they walk?
Wait, sit and walk? That seems mundane. Why would he ask about something so basic? Is he literally asking about their posture?
It's a fantastic question, and the ancient commentators loved it. It's less about the literal posture and more about the disposition. How do they sit can mean how do they rest? How are they when they are inactive or in repose? Are they fidgety, anxious, constantly needing distraction?
Oh, okay. And how do they walk would be how they move through the world? How they engage in activity?
Exactly. How do they handle their daily affairs? How do they interact with challenges and opportunities? And how do they speak? That one is more direct. What is the quality of their communication when faced with praise, criticism, pleasure, or pain?
So he's asking for the outward manifestation of this inner state. It's a way to distinguish a genuinely wise person from someone who's just pretending.
That's the core of it. He's looking for the proof. It's a very human, very relatable question. He wants to know what this enlightenment actually looks like on a Tuesday afternoon. And Krishna's answer, which spans the rest of the chapter, starts in verse 255. He doesn't begin with their actions. He begins with their inner world.
Of course he does. He goes right to the source.
He does. He says, when a person completely casts away all the desires of the mind and is satisfied in the self by the self alone, then they are said to be one of steady wisdom.
Okay, let's unpack that. Two big conditions there. First,
casts away all desires of the mind. That sounds impossible. Do they not want anything? Not even food or water?
A very important distinction. The text specifies desires of the mind, monogeton. This isn't about basic biological needs. It's about the psychological dramas, the cravings, the if-onlys that our minds create, the constant projections for happiness onto external things.
Like wanting a new car, or a promotion, or wanting someone to praise you.
Yes, Adi Shankara, the famous philosopher, specified this as giving up desires for family, wealth, and fame. It's the demolition of uninvoked thoughts and cravings that disturb our inner peace.
Okay, that's one half of the equation. What about the second part? Satisfied in the self by the self alone. That's a bit of a loop.
It is, and it's the most crucial part. It means their contentment, their joy, their sense of completeness is generated from within. It isn't dependent on anything external.
So they don't need that promotion or that praise to feel good? Their happiness isn't contingent on, if this happens, then I'll be happy.
Precisely. Think about it. Most of us operate on a deficit model. We feel a lack of money, of love, of recognition, and we seek something outside of ourselves to fill it. Astita-prajna doesn't have that deficit. Their source of fulfillment is their own inner nature, the self.
So it's not that they don't experience pleasure or sorrow, but their fundamental well-being isn't rocked by them.
You've got it. Their inner state is one of contentment, what the text calls objectless consciousness. There's no object they need to acquire to feel whole. The satisfaction comes from being, not from having or doing.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a fundamental shift in where you look for happiness. You stop outsourcing it to the world and find it within.
That's a beautiful way to put it. You stop outsourcing your happiness. That's the core of verse 2.55. It's the internal foundation upon which all the external behaviors Arjuna asked about are built. Now, a common misconception here is that this person must be totally passive, a kind of blissful bump on a log, detached from life.
Yeah, I can see that. If you have no desires and you're already content, why would you do anything? Why would you even get out of bed?
And that's the paradox. The reality is the opposite. Their inner stillness allows for incredible outer dynamism. They act not out of a desperate need to get something, but from a place of fullness, clarity, and service.
So their actions are purer? They aren't contaminated by selfish motives.
Exactly. They perform life's duties calmly, without being emotionally swayed. Think of the tortoise metaphor that comes up later. They can withdraw their senses from the world to protect their inner state, and then extend them to act purposefully when needed.
So they can be a householder, a leader, a parent, and still maintain this inner state?
Absolutely. Their actions in the world actually reinforce their wisdom rather than dislodge it. They aren't trying to escape the world. They've just figured out how to live in it without being owned by it.
Okay, that's a huge relief. It's not about renouncing life, but about changing your internal operating system.
Perfectly said. So let's quickly recap what we've covered. We started with this critical moment where the student, Arjuna, asks the teacher for a practical demonstration.
He wants to know what astita-prajna, a person of steady wisdom, actually looks like, how they talk, sit, and walk, how they engage with life.
And Krishna's first response, his foundational answer, points inward. He gives two conditions. First, abandoning the compulsive, mind-born desires for external things.
And second, discovering a source of contentment that comes from within, from the self for the self, not outsourcing your happiness.
Excellent. So for our practice until next time, I want to suggest a simple observation exercise. No need to change anything. Just notice.
Okay, I'm ready.
Throughout your day, just pay attention to your moments of satisfaction. When you feel a little hit of pleasure or contentment, Ask yourself, did this come from something outside of me, or did it arise from within?
So, for example, noticing if the good feeling came from a compliment someone gave me versus a quiet moment of just feeling at peace.
That's it exactly. No judgment, no trying to force one or the other. Just observe the source of your contentment. It's the first step to understanding Krishna's point on a personal level, and we'll build on that next time as he continues to paint this portrait of the one with a steady mind.